Welcome back to the Arsenal Tottenham Fan Podcast. So I have to apologize for missing the last few weeks on the podcast. I was on a secret mission for Elon Musk, which I can't discuss at all under threat of my life.
He's not buying Arsenal, is he?
No, no, hopefully not.
Oh, good
Lord. So I am back. Rick has been here the whole time and has been chomping at the bit to talk about how well Tottenham has been playing.
Oh, man. Yeah, go figure. We take a break when we start doing well, right?
Well, send Conte to the hospital. When he comes back, somebody's going to kick him in the kidneys. Maybe he can go.
Maybe we
go for that.
Maybe we don't want him back. Like just can you stay away? How many gallbladders do you have?
That's right. That's right. So we are absolutely stoked to be back. We missed so many good topics to talk about. We could have talked about Tottenham's win over Man City, which was a lot of fun. Arsenal's comeback victory over Villa would have been fun to talk about, but we can't talk about any of those because we are going to focus on what happened this past week in the Premier League. So we're going to talk about Leicester against Arsenal. We'll talk about Tottenham's London derby win over the team formerly known as Chelsea. We're going to talk a little bit about news for Tottenham and Arsenal. We're going to do some previews, and that'll pretty much be our show for the day. And we're going to start since Arsenal played first. I guess we'll jump into the kind of keep it in chronological order, and we'll jump into the Arsenal-Leicester game. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to talk Arsenal-Leicester, kind of a weird game in that the way that Leicester got trounced by Man United in the game before, they really went toe-to-toe with them early in the game and had Manchester United reeling. It was David De Gea that kept Man United in the game.
Yeah, well, look what Leicester did to us.
That's right. And then Man United shreds them the rest of the game. So I guess they came into the game feeling vulnerable based on what Man United did to them. And, you remember our first half against Villa when we gave up 2 goals on the counter, but quick counterattacks, and we looked kind of helter-skelter on both goals. And Man City got 3 goals against us. So it looked like Arteta had said, let's keep it tight at the back and let's go for the clean sheet. And where you would have expected a game to really be end-to-end and 2 teams going at each other, trying to score goals, it really looked like Arsenal was kind of content to keep the ball, and Leicester was kind of content to keep the ball out of their penalty box.
Yeah, it was really strange, right? I mean, I didn't see all the game, bits and pieces, and I watched all the highlights. But Leicester, I don't know, man. They were just. I was expecting more.
Shit.
I really did. Yeah, there you go. Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, they and.
But they can be on their day. They can, as they proved against Tottenham. I mean, they can be.
That's right,
and good to watch, fun to watch. If you're a neutral, they're a good team to watch. If you're a neutral, but
that's right.
They did not turn up against you lot. They just didn't. Turn.
And we'll talk a little bit about lineups. For them, they were missing James Maddison, and that may have had a lot to do with it. Although they didn't start Jamie Vardy and they didn't start Yuri Tielemans either.
Yeah, and I don't know why. Well, Vardy, maybe. He's lost He's lost a yard or 2, right?
Yeah, that's right. For us, we started Trossard in place of Nketiah, who had played every minute of every game since Jesus' injury. So he certainly needed a break, and there's some whispers around that he's carrying a pretty serious knock on his ankle. So it's probably good to give him some time on the bench. Jorginho kept his place in the lineup, and he came in for Party. And one thing I thought that Arsenal did that was interesting is they named Zinchenko as captain for the
Captain.
match
Yeah.
on the 1 year anniversary of Russia invading Ukraine. So I thought that was a really classy gesture on the part of the club. And you could see how much it meant to Zinchenko and how well he played in that game after hitting kind of a rough patch of form over the last few games. Leicester again weren't really aggressive on the defensive end. We weren't particularly aggressive on the offensive end.
They didn't even have
After
a shot on target, Cal, for crying
Yeah,
out
I
loud.
know. After 5 minutes, we had 80. On the road, we had 81% possession, um, but it only taken two shots, which I guess in 5 minutes is not bad. But when you've got the ball for 4 minutes, two shots may not be, that may not be all that great. Um, Leicester broke finally on 9 minutes, and when they finally had a breakout, and they took the ball off Odegaard in midfield, and we'll talk a little bit about Odegaard as we get into this podcast, but they took the ball off of him in midfield, ran toward our goal, and I think you could see in that moment how well drilled Arsenal's center back duo had been during the week, because Saliba was far better in that instance than he was against Villa, and got tight to the man with the ball, stopped it, and forced it out wide, gave Arsenal time to get back. And in a similar move that had yielded goals for Villa and Man City, didn't even yield a ball in the penalty box in this particular game. And I think that set the stage for how well defensively that we were going to play, and that how much emphasis Arteta had put on defensive solidarity during the week. I made a note in the 11th minute that they were playing really passive. They weren't really pressing the ball. They weren't really attacking whoever had the ball at their feet. And they seemed to be content to get 9 men in the penalty box and seemed to be relatively comfortable we weren't going to score. And in all honesty, we haven't, especially of late, done much scoring against teams that have packed the penalty box with players. In the 14th minute, I made a note that a lot of the openings that occurred, and we moved the ball pretty good, so we certainly create openings, but a lot of those openings seem to fall to Xhaka. And against Aston Villa, the same thing. Against Everton, the same thing. And I don't know if teams are focusing so much on Odegaard or Martinelli on the other side, or Zinchenko, that they're having to kind of pick their poison and leave somebody relatively open. But Xhaka certainly has had a lot of the ball in attacking spaces in space, and he ain't done nothing with it. And that has been very frustrating for me and other Arsenal fans, because early in the year, when we went on such a great run, remember, Xhaka had 2 goals and a couple of assists through like 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was raving about him because, well, mainly because, I mean, as we remember, at one point, he was just hauled off, was it last season? And
Mm-hmm.
threw his shirt on the ground or whatever it was.
That's right.
So there's this big transformation. He seems to have taken a dip again.
Yeah, well, that's right. And one of the original transformation earlier this year is because we finally got him away from his own goal, where all of his weaknesses are magnified. And when he's closer to the other team's goal and he turns the ball over, or he makes a bad pass, or he has a bad touch, it doesn't hurt us because it doesn't turn into a goal. But when we're running through a relative drought of goals, it starts to show up, because you notice that when an opportunity is blown, who the person is that is, I guess, responsible for that attack and move kind of petering out. And in a lot of instances in this game, in the last few games, it's been Xhaka. So one thing going forward to be interested in is, as we enter European competition, is Arteta going to give Vieira some time in that left 8 slot in the European games? And if he plays well, is there a possibility that Xhaka loses his position somewhere down the road later this season? Something to keep an eye on. In the 26th minute, we score. Trossard with a hell of a goal.
What do you think of Trossard? What do you think of him?
Well, we'll get into the news, but exactly what the doctor ordered. I mean, for 20 million pounds that we got him for, I mean, we're in a title chase. He is ready-made for the Premier League. He needs no adaptation whatsoever.
Yeah, and it gives Arteta more choice as well.
Well, that's right. And missing Jesus, what we did is, again, we've talked about on the podcast, what Jesus did for us is he would move out to the left-hand touchline, and that would open up space inside for Martinelli, and they could kind of change places. And when he would come out there, it would give Zinchenko a chance to play a little more inside. It would give Jacques an opportunity to overlap, and it just created more movement on that left-hand side. And Trossard, not as good as Jesus, but he can still do those things that Jesus did. And he spent a lot of time on the left touchline. We'll talk about the goal. It came from a pass from him on the left-hand touchline. So while he's not as good as Jesus, he gives us that difference from Nketiah, who wants to stay in the middle, wants to run off the center backs. So I think Trossard for us has been fantastic and exactly what we needed, a versatile attacker who can play in a couple of different positions. Did you happen to see the call that the VAR call? No, the VAR call on the goal that Trossard scored. The holding call on White.
Was it the second one?
Remember, Trossard scored in the 26th minute, and they called Ben White for holding the keeper's arm.
Ward, yeah.
It's a foul. I mean, it's a foul. And on the one hand, you would say, to be sure, he's strong enough to be able to move his arm out of that grasp. I mean, come on, rip your arm away from him. But at the same time, it's a foul. He gets a punch on the ball. We take 2 touches before the goal. So you could debate, did it really affect? It probably had an effect, and it probably is a foul. So if you're going to use VAR, that's probably as good a use of VAR as there is. I think it's a foul that I think should be called. I would like to see more of those fouls called in the penalty box on both teams, on both the offensive and attacking. So I really don't have any issues with it. But what happens, of course, is the away team scores, the home team gets the VAR call that wipes the goal off, the crowd gets into it and picks up the home team. And they get a spark of life. And it wasn't long after that than Nacho had the ball in the back of our net. But it was offside, pretty obvious offside. And again, I think that the work on the training ground with the two center backs really helped, because if you go back and look at it, you can see Hanacho kind of moving toward the offside position, and you can see Saliba look over and line up with Gabriel and not get sucked into making the run. And he goes offside the pass. So again, really good play by Saliba there to pick up his center back counterpart and make sure he didn't drop deeper than he was. Fantastic defense. And then not long after that, 4 minutes after the VAR call that ruled out the goal, Saka gets rugby tackled in the penalty box on a cross that doesn't get called.
Yeah.
So that's my issue, is not with the goal that's ruled out. My issue is with, if you're going to call Ben White having his arm, grabbing the arm of the keeper, fair enough. But you've got to call the center back for both arms around Saka. And granted, the center back slips or falls or trips, but he didn't take his arms away from Saka, and he just took him down as he fell.
Yeah, it's been. Let's be fair. It's been a rough few weeks for Premier League officiating.
God,
really rough, Cal.
And let me tell you, and that is saying that the Titanic was a rough boat ride. I mean, it's a rough week for them is normal because they're awful. I mean, literally, of all the major sports, professional sports, college sports, they're the worst. And let's hope.
It's almost like there's no accountability. They're like, they should, at a minimum, they should have the referees give a post-match conference.
Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Everybody would be tuned into that.
Yeah, it'll get better ratings than the game.
Hey, we've got the hat trick player here. Screw him. Where's the
ref? That's for sure. But I think one of the issues, and hopefully Howard Mudd or Webb or whatever his name is can figure this out. But there's 20 refs, and they all call things differently.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's human nature, though, Cal. Right? It's like if you ask a cop at the murder scene and he's interviewing 10 people, what did you see? He's going to get 10 different answers.
That's true, but hopefully, Webb can get these guys all together and they can start working together, and they can do film review, and they can align themselves. And in truth, they should be doing it with the Premier League for how the Premier League wants games to be called. And they should sit down and say, okay, this foul we want called. This action is not a call. And that directive, the referees themselves shouldn't be determining how the game is called. Yeah. That should come from above them, and they should be executing how those above them want the game called. And so it's that inconsistency that is awful. So on 35 minutes, I think we got to see what made Arsenal special in this particular game and the reason they won the game. And I made the note that Leicester break. So Leicester get the ball about the D of their own penalty box. And it was one of those situations where we had almost all of our attackers in the box or below the penalty box line. The ball breaks out, and Leicester, 3 guys take off against Saliba and Gabriel. They start dropping back. And then at the top of the screen, you see Harvey Barnes just bolt, because he's playing high, bolt up the left wing, and there is Saka stride for stride with him. And all the way to almost to our penalty box at like a 60-yard run. So our star player, our best offensive player, is the third man back on a 4-versus-3 break. And Gabriel and Saliba, if Saka doesn't get back, it's 4-on-2, and that wing is the weak point. But when Saliba and Gabriel saw that Saka had the right-hand side covered, the three Leicester players couldn't get enough space between them that they could really threaten the two-man Arsenal defense. So the one Leicester player went from the center and tried to go out wide, but when he did, it left the two Leicester players in the center. Saliba could handle them. Gabriel read it perfect and went out wide. And the number one thing you have to do in that situation is stop the ball and force it wide, which is what they did. And as soon as that ball wide, you're looking at the TV, and then you see 5 red shirts come running into the penalty box.
Yeah.
Literally,
Harvey Barnes is no slouch either.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a great player. I like him a lot.
Me too. And if Saka doesn't make that run, Barnes is going to score. I mean, he's dangerous. And in an interview that I saw on Twitter after the game, they were talking to Dewsbury Hall about the game. And he played that clip, or they played that clip. And he's like, that's why Arsenal was so tough. We couldn't get a break on them because they spent so much energy getting back on defense that we couldn't break on them. And I think that was part of the strategy going into the game. But that's also, I think, part of the reason that Arsenal didn't have more than 10 shots, even though they had so much of the ball, is that they always had that defensive balance to protect against the break.
Yeah. Leicester was slow. I think Rodgers said afterwards, he went, we were so slow with the ball. They just weren't quick, compared.
That's right.
I mean, it's mad. I mean, it was definitely not the same team that played Tottenham, because oh my God, against us, man, they were like 100 miles an hour.
Right.
Moving that ball.
First half, we had 73% possession.
Yeah, that's mad.
Leicester had 0 shots.
Yeah, away from home, that is mental.
Yeah, it is. And like I say, I think it had as much to do with Leicester not wanting to get Man United, wanting to pack. And they saw how Everton beat us. I think they were trying to nick a 1-0, thinking that they could beat us on the break because they saw how how Aston Villa beat us on the break. And they also saw how Everton beat us with a corner. So I'm sure they were like, let's pack the box, let's nick a goal and take a 1-0. But of course, within a minute of halftime, that strategy went down the tubes because Martinelli scored. And, Gabriel made a great play. He intercepted a pass, and rather than trap it, pass it out of the back, he first timed it long ball up the left wing to Trossard. So we talked a little bit about Trossard changing places with Martinelli. I mean, he was already on the left-hand touchline, and Gabriel one-timed it to him, which got it past the Leicester defense. Trossard nutmegged the defender, and Martinelli ran onto it, opened his hips up, finished in the bottom corner across Ward. And had that not gone in, Saka who in the first half had busted his ass to get back defensively, had busted his ass to get toward the goal, and would have tapped it in had it been outside the goal frame. So that made it 1-0. And that was pretty much the game. They couldn't and didn't lay a glove on us. Usually you would have expected, okay, it's 1-0. Here comes Leicester. They're
Yeah, I
going
was
to attack
expecting
us.
that.
You
Yeah,
know, they're going to control the ball. They had nothing.
nothing.
And it was hard to tell whether it was our great. Well, they couldn't get the ball off of us. So whether they didn't want to open themselves up enough to try to get the ball off of us or not, I don't know. But they couldn't get the ball off of us, and that was their real problem.
They are a different team. You did mention this earlier on. They are a different team without Madison in the midfield.
I wouldn't have thought he would have made that much difference, but maybe he does.
I just think from his creative play, and he's an attacking midfielder. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no question.
So, I think he might have made a little bit of. We don't know. It's an assumption, but
he would have definitely made a difference.
Yeah.
But I hope for Leicester's sake, he's not the difference between the Leicester team that we played and the Leicester team that y'all played. Because if he is, they are in a freaking world of hurt when he's gone. And he ain't signing no new contract there.
I think they're going to struggle to keep Tielemans, Barnes, and Madison.
Yeah, exactly. Which means, they're going to be in the Everton position sooner than later.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
On 55 minutes, we had the ball in the back of their net again. That was ruled out for offside. And it might have been offside. It might have been not been offside. It was really close. To me, if you're going to do that, if you're going to rule the goal out for offside, and you're going to look at every goal for offside, show me the damn lines. That's about as good a TV as it is. The last thing I want to do is listen to the jarheads on the TV guess as to what the hell, if he's offside or not.
Put the lines up so we can see.
Show me the damn lines.
Yeah.
That way I'm going to trust the process a hell of a lot more than I currently do. And it makes for interesting viewing.
For TV viewers, for the
exactly
folks in the stadium, it's shite, and they get nothing.
That's right, and it's shite for them either way.
Yeah, they're just standing around going, "What's going on here? What's
That's
happening?"
Right.
That's right. Grab you another cup of tea.
That's right. But at least for us, viewers at home, give us a chance to listen.
Yeah, I agree.
So I mentioned I was going to talk about Odegaard. On 70 minutes, he gets a pass in the center. He is one-on-one with Foss, their center back that looks like David Luiz. And he just completely gets the ball stuck under his feet and loses it out of nowhere. He missed the wide open goal against Villa. Now he loses this. I'm starting to be concerned about his composure in front of goal. He early in the season.
I like it. Now keep talking, brother.
Pre-World Cup, he was the best player in the league.
Yeah, without a doubt. He's great.
And it's, this has been a couple of things now where, he's been wide open and just literally lost composure. And that is concerning. So we'll see what happens going forward. But, we need if we're going to win the title, we're going to need some composure from him in very, very, tight bum situations.
Sure. Because you're going to have some coming up.
That's right. And the last couple games, he hasn't shown that. So, so just check a little concern from me there. Player of the game, got to be, to me, it's Saliba and Gabriel, um, because of the way that they defended and kind of shut down the few breaks that came. And, you wouldn't expect it to be a defensive game, but it turned out to be a defensive game. They were the best two defenders out there. So we'll give it to them. As I look over the stats, I see Leicester with one shot. I mean, literally one shot, not one shot on target, one shot all game. They had, and it came from 28 yards. They had 0.19 XG, which is the lowest XG of any game in Premier League history.
Yeah. It's pretty lame.
That's like almost not showing up.
Well,
I mean, think about it.
Pretty much what they did on Saturday.
I mean, think about it. Like in a Major League Baseball game, you and I can go up there and strike out.
Yeah, I would for sure. Yeah.
We can do that. Could we pick up 11 of our beer buddies and get a shot on goal? In 90 minutes, could we get, or actually, could we get one shot off?
I feel more confident of than holding a baseball bat, Cal.
We might get beat 49-0. Actually, we might get beat 90-0. But could we get one shot off?
Yeah, pretty sure I could. Yeah. I think we could manage that.
Oh, man. Anyway, so there is Arsenal back top of the table. Again, 2-point lead.
You mentioned Jorginho. What are your thoughts on Jorginho?
Well, I was going to go to Jorginho during the news part.
All right, don't worry about it.
Okay. That's all right. We'll do it now. Well, I don't have much for news, but the news that I have is that Jorginho and Trossard have already played an incredibly important role in our title challenge. And not our first choice went after Caicedo. Trossard, not our first choice, went after Mudryk. But man, they've been just what the doctor ordered. Yeah. Jorginho's not as good as Partey, can't cover the ground, certainly not as good defensively. Not that Partey is the greatest defensive midfielder in the world. But in games where we have a lot of the ball and are going to have it, which is almost every game for us, Jorginho can keep the ball ticking in midfield, control possession, make the right pass, as good as Partey. And last year when we lost Partey, we turned to shit. And we lost Partey for the first time this year and just won 2 straight away games. So that is a huge difference.
Yeah.
So that's it for me from the Arsenal-Leicester game. Should we talk about Tottenham and the team that used to play like Chelsea?
Go from our most hated team, Arsenal, to our second most hated team, Chelsea. Although Chelsea are getting close to being up there with Arsenal, I'll tell you that.
Well, I was thinking if Chelsea keep playing like this, we're all going to start to like them.
Well, think about it, right? I mean, think about the last time Tottenham played Chelsea. We drew 2-2, right? Think about that match. The team has changed. The manager has changed, right? I mean, that last game, you had the Tuchel Conte handshake at the end.
That's right.
Right.
Hey, and I hate to get into this right off the bat, but I've got to mention it. So imagine who was the referee in Stuart Atwell? Was that who was?
Yeah.
So imagine if he would have been referee in the first game.
Good Lord.
It would have been celebrity death match.
Well, this was in danger of becoming the Stuart Atwell show at one point.
Well, exactly. And it's because he would not give out a yellow card to people who deserved it.
And you know what happens, right, Cal, when the referee holds on to the yellows, that sooner or later in the game, there's going to be an explosion of yellows.
Exactly. Exactly. And had he as intent, this game wasn't near as intense as the first game was.
No.
Chelsea looked like they've already packed it in. But in that first game, Chelsea came to play. Maybe the only game all year that they have been intense and really came to
Yeah.
play.
And that's
And and that game was physical as it was.
Mhm.
Had there been a no yellow card, I mean, imagine that first Chelsea Tottenham game when they knew after 10 minutes that everything was legal,
Yeah.
that they weren't going to get a yellow card for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, there would have been 3 players stretchered off the pitch before halftime.
Yeah. 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 It was in danger of becoming the Stuart Atwell show with the incident, which we'll get into, and him going off to get his the equipment done and all of that. But a completely different game to the last game that we played. But and I know people were saying that it's the crap Chelsea and everything else, but you still got to beat the team that's in front of you, even though they're not playing that well. But man, unbelievable. The, I think there's something happening here at Tottenham, and we've talked about this at the beginning of this season, and as things progressed for Tottenham. And I said on numerous occasions, if you're going to play like shite in the first half, it's okay as long as you win.
Winning cures all ills.
Because results trump performance in the end, somewhere along the line, right?
You play to win the game.
Right? So I think what Tottenham have started to figure out is that you can't keep going in at halftime 1-0 or 2-0 down.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming out and going bonkers and trying to get back. Now that's worked out a couple of times against the Bournemouths of the world and what have you. And it's made for some exciting football right at the end. But it's not sustainable, Cal.
That's a fact.
What I'm seeing now, this first half, last week against West Ham, was a very similar game.
Uh-huh.
Right? And what I'm seeing again against Chelsea on Sunday, yesterday, was another first half that was stop and start. But there was a difference, though. Tottenham weren't crap. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
In those previous games, Tottenham went from being absolutely atrocious to being like really, really good in the second half. Right? Now, they're not going in losing. They're not going in behind. They're either going in 1-0 up or it's 0-0. And they're playing semi-decent football in the first half, but you know it's coming in the second half. There's a definite change there in the team. It's much more controlled in the first half and not just – if you look at just the last 2 games, for example, the football's been much more controlled. The players have looked in control, not like what we've spoke about before, where I've seen players receiving the ball where they're standing still, looking like they don't want to play.
Well, just from my perspective, it looked like Tottenham was more intense and more focused and ran more.
Right, and that's my point. It's still, to the eye, a boring first half, but there's a major difference in the way that they're playing these first halves now. So the strategy might just be working now, right? Like it's starting to come through. Like, the first halves are still not going to be great for Tottenham, but then they are still going to turn it up in the second half.
Well, I can remember a breakaway where Ben Davis ended up putting the cross in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming from
one point yesterday. Romero was our furthest player forward on the penalty spot in the Chelsea box.
Right. And I mean, that is player movement that you didn't see a ton of early, or I won't say early in the year because, your first 10 games kind of were different, but, kind of in the middle of the year, you didn't see that running from all. There wasn't a lot of position trading
Yeah.
amongst the Tottenham team, and that's what I saw more of. More
Yeah.
people running from deep, and then other people dropping back into their position.
Yeah. And I know, and I'm noticing it. I know other fans are noticing it. I'm talking to buddies, and they're telling me the same thing. What they're seeing, it, in the first half of this season, when Tottenham went off at half time, I was pulling my hair out. Like, what is that I've just seen? That is like just ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like
I do.
really frustrated. But in the last few games, again, the first halves haven't been exemplary, but it's like, huh, all right. You know what I'm saying? There's a real subtle difference going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This game against Chelsea was pretty much the same. The first half was nothing to write home about. Højbjerg hit the post. I think Sterling had a shot on goal. Foster made a good save. Other than that, physical, what you'd expect against Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Stop and start. You know, um, the the most exciting thing that happened in the first half was the Ziyech incident.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what a debacle that was, right?
Uh, it's just crazy. That's what happens when a referee is shit.
Yeah. Now tell us how you really feel, Cal. Stop beating about the bush, mate.
I, First of all, I've always thought Stuart Atwell was a suck official. I really hate the official that won't give the yellow card in the 10th minute when it is absolutely 100%
Yeah.
deserved.
You've got to make a decision as a ref. There are games and then there are games. And then your
That's right.
referee in the Tottenham Chelsea game, you can look at the history of the games, right? Go back to the last game, go back to the freaking any Chelsea Tottenham game, right? The Battle
Yeah,
of the Bridge. You know, when you see tackles coming in like that in 10, 15 minutes, you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to put a stop to this,
that's right.
right?
And you better do it right away.
And that's what you did, just based on historical data, right? And
Mm-hmm.
as a ref, you should know that going in, right?
That's right.
But that incident was such a debacle. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Ziyech is
no
walking
question.
off. The fourth official's telling him, wait, don't go anywhere yet.
Mm-hmm.
Wait there, right? Again, the crowd are like, what is going on, right? But this time, the people at home were like going, what is going on,
For sure.
right? Um, how that's not deemed violent conduct, I'm not sure. Even if you say that's not a straight red, there's two incidents here where he should have had a yellow card.
Yeah.
And last time I checked the rules, two yellows make a red.
Yeah, exactly. So, on the one hand, I would say it sucked for Ziyech because Emerson totally goaded him into it.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a
And
doubt.
and on the one hand, you can say, okay, Ziyech, you can't let yourself get sucked into that. But in terms of fairness, for Emerson to get a yellow in order to draw a second yellow on Ziyech is not fair in the sporting way.
Well, anyway,
That,
yeah.
that, that that's not English football.
Yeah. My take on it was I'm glad he didn't get sent off.
Uh-huh.
Because I said to my son, and I think the commentator said it in the second half, I said, look, if we're going to win this game, let's not lose to a out of form Chelsea who've only got 10 men. Let's at least beat 11 of them, right?
There ain't no way y'all were losing that game.
Right.
There ain't no way.
So that first half, I mean, it's pretty lame if that's the highlight of a first half of a game of football, right?
Yeah.
But that really was. But the second half was it was a bit different kettle of fish. I was really, really happy for Oliver Skip.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've said on it before, I love that kid. He plays football like there's a lot of things that I don't like about the game, like outside the game. But this kid runs around like his face says, "I'm so glad to be doing this for a living. I'm
Oh
so
yeah.
happy." Do you know what I mean? I mean,
Oh, I do.
you even like I've seen him getting off of the coach before a game, right? Laughing and smiling there. You see some of these players getting off with their beats on, you know, faces as long as a horse. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Carrying their toiletries. Like you look at everything, they go all the troubles of the world, you
Uh-huh.
know. And this guy's just running around like, just it was a great goal. Um, of course, Alan Smith, who was commentating on the game in England, not in the US version, in Alan
Right.
Smith, ex Arsenal, whatever he was,
Mm-hmm.
um, couldn't even give the kid the grace to say what a great goal it was. He's like, it looked like it took a deflection. Kepper should have saved it.
Well
Typical
done. Well
typical
done,
Alan
Alan.
Smith. Yeah, whack.
Why can't we get him? I'm going to try to be able to tune into the Alan Smith
Yeah, that's why you
broadcast.
can't get him.
You know,
Um,
um, Oliver Skip. I hate to say this, but he reminds me of Tottenham's Scott McTominay,
in what way?
and I because every time I see him running, I'm like, somebody's going to get their leg broke.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, he doesn't seem one to me to be interested in timing tackles precisely.
yeah. No, I was going to bring that up. He's got a good physical side to him. Um,
Well,
the good thing for us is, well, not good. I mean, Bentoncourt's out this season. Looks like he could be out for a couple of months of the next season yet.
oh wow,
Um, so Skip's coming along, and now he's got his opportunity to cement his place in the midfield. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Alongside Hoiberg and Saar. I mean, he's knocking at the door too. But it was a good goal. It was nice to see him score it. He was. I saw him on social media afterwards, sharing it and walking through it. It's not like Harry Kane who's banging them in every week. This kid's first goal. It's good to see. Those are the good things in football. I don't care who you play
Right,
for. Do you
sure,
know what I mean? Those are
yes, I do.
exciting. You can imagine him late last night texting all his mates or going down the pub and talking about it. Do you know what I mean? And that's
Of
the good
course.
stuff, right? Um, but Christian Romero gave an absolute masterclass for the second week running.
Masterclass of football or masterclass of shithousery.
No shithousery, Cal, this week. No shithousery.
Come on now, I was watching the game.
It was a couple.
Oh my God. Anybody but Stuart Atwell referee in that game. He's watching the second half on a television in the locker room.
Yeah, absolutely flawless, Romero. Absolutely flawless. I'm telling you. Absolutely flawless. Nothing getting past him, man. He's nutmegging them the whole 9 yards.
He was all over the place. For sure. I mean, like you say, he was in the attacking box. He was in your box. I mean, he was everywhere.
Yeah. And the surprise package continues, right? It's Emerson Royale. Pedro Porro's got to be sitting on the bench going, what the hell's going on here?
Well, as I've mentioned, I've always, I thought that he could do a defensive job in that wingback position. He played, he probably played Saka as good as anyone has played against him. I think in last year's game, but
Yeah.
he did a really good job against Saka defensively.
Well, I think a couple of things working in his favor. One is, like when you bring somebody in like that, it lights a fire under your ass, right?
For sure.
Right. And it has done for him. Secondly, we made a mistake. We, meaning Conte, made a mistake by putting Porro in against Leicester.
Okay.
If you have a debut player, stick him in at home, not
Right.
in an away game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he was. That's the worst debut I've seen in
No
years
kidding.
from a player. Freaking absolutely. And everyone knows he's a better player than that. And I I would agree with Jack Pitt-Brooke of the Athletic saying that Leicester game was an aberration for Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.
Because in our last 5 league games, we've won 4 of them, and we've kept clean sheets in all of them.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you look at your results, that definitely is the outlier.
Yeah, for sure.
And as we saw this weekend, Leicester, they ain't all that. So y'all got something wrong.
Yeah, it was
in that game.
I think I posted on Instagram at Arsenal Tottenham Fan Podcast .com. I had a picture of the team with all their heads down, and I plastered "bad day at the office" across the photo. Which it was. It's a horrendous day. But look, 4 clean sheets, 2 London derbies. On paper, when I looked at those games, I thought that's going to be hard. West Ham and then Chelsea back to back, right? Within 7 days, but 6 points, 4 goals, clean sheets. I think the clean sheets. I mean, it's just good to have the clean sheets because it's not something we've been getting. Right? I mean,
and that's how you win.
Yeah,
London derbies. That's how you win big games.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Conte will be happy with that. So it's funny, right? Because if you look at that, right, 4 wins, I mean, beating City, and then Chelsea and West Ham. Does Stellini get manager of the month, or would Conte get it? It's kind of funny, right?
I think you got to give it to Stellini.
I mean, yeah, you got to give it to that man. He's on 100% record when he stood in for Conte now.
Yeah.
Right. So just have a few more bottles of wine, chill out back home. No rush, Antonio. No rush.
That's right. And you're really solidifying your top 4. This run. You were, or Tottenham was on. In danger of losing touch on the top 4.
Yep.
Race, and
Absolutely.
You've really solidified your position in there now. Newcastle still can catch you because they're 4 points back with 2 games in hand, and you have to go to Newcastle. But at the same point in time, that's right in it, and you don't have to worry about anybody else. Fulham is next. Well, I'll take that back. Fulham is next in line. The team, the Jekyll and Hyde Liverpool team.
Yep, that's the danger.
Is the one I think you really have to worry about.
Yeah,
you kind of wonder if Newcastle, Newcastle's form has kind of caught up with them a little bit.
I think so.
Their results haven't been as strong as lately.
I think we've both said this, that we felt that Newcastle would start to fade away. But they're not going away for long. They'll be back next season.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
For sure. But they're starting to, they don't score goals, and they're starting to give up goals. Their last few games, they're starting to give up goals. And if they give up goals, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose touch with the top 4 race. Liverpool takes one step forward, or they take one leap forward, and you're like, okay, here they come. And then they take a step back.
Yeah.
So whether they can be consistent enough, and part of that's injuries, to make the run. But I like you as much right now for the top 4 as I have since September, October.
Yeah. Well, I think the clean sheets, they're not losing at halftime. The team looks a bit more. Conte's not there, and the team looks happier and more unified without him than when he's there, right? I mean, that might be just that the players are more relaxed because the boss man's not around.
Well, right? Maybe, but I mean, let's be honest. When you look at the lineups that your guy is putting out there, looks to me like he's putting the best players out there.
Yeah. Oh, there's questions being asked. I mean, without doubt. You know what I mean?
Like Conte played Sarr against us. What the hell was he thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I had said that, you might put Skip in to guard Odegaard.
Yeah.
Stop him. Instead, he put Sarr. I mean, what the
I, I,
hell?
I still think Conte's the man for the job. Um, I don't gush over Conte, because we all know his record and everything
Mm-hmm.
else.
Mm-hmm.
When he starts to say something nice about our team and the club in itself, then I'll start to gush over Antonio Conte. But until then, I don't think I will. I don't even know if he'll be there next season, to be quite honest. But
Well,
that's a
you got to
whole
what
nother.
you got to wonder if Levy's over there going, "Hey, this sorry guy's going to be a lot cheaper."
Right? Yeah. But I'll finish up on the Chelsea game. Kane again making the record books.
Yeah.
Son corner flick on by Dyer, and there he is at the back. Piss poor marking by Chelsea. I mean, without doubt. But that's where he is, Kane. He's just got that instinct. I mean, he's a goal scorer no matter what. And that was a goal. People look at that. That's an instinctual goal. And people say, well, he's a goal hanger. I know they said that about Gary Lineker. Gary Lineker never scored 99% of his goals were scored within the 6-yard box.
Mm-hmm.
That was his job. He's a striker. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Like somebody said on social media, Skip's goal, what a great goal. It was a great striker's goal. And I thought, no, it wasn't. That was like a great midfielder's goal.
That's
right?
exactly right. Because it came from outside the box.
The centre back who's came up, right? It wasn't a
That's right.
striker's goal.
That's right.
But so that was great. I mean, beating Chelsea 2-0 because we hadn't beat them at the new stadium. They've always been a pain in the arse for years. And there's no real rhyme or reason why we haven't beaten them regularly in the past. Really, there really isn't. Even the good Chelseas that we played, there's been a few games, but over the years, really no rhyme or reason to it, really. So always good to get a 2-0 win over Chelsea. I will say this, though. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of reality on Tottenham, though, because it's. I've said this before too. I still can't believe we're in fourth spot. Right? It's just mind-boggling, right? But the next 2 weeks, pivotal for Tottenham too. When you think about it, we've got Sheffield United Wednesday night in the FA Cup. Then we've got a Premier League game the weekend against Wolves, and then Milan next week. For as happy as we feel now, and I'm not being negative, it just shows you how intense this is and how you've got to keep your eye on the ball. But 2 weeks from now, I think we could all go to shit again real quick. 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Just like that. That's how football is.
That is how football is.
So it's like that was great. And funny enough, I'll use an NFL football analogy, as Bill Belichick said. Beating Chelsea 2-0 was great. On to Cincinnati. Right?
That's right.
You've had your fun. You've celebrated. Let's go, boys. Get back into the training.
That's right. That's right. So let's, if there's, I rarely enjoy a Tottenham victory, but if it's going to come against Chelsea, there is at least a little bit of joy in seeing Chelsea be shit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because I really can't stand Chelsea. And not a big Tottenham fan, don't get me wrong, but Chelsea, for all they have represented, and, at one time it was oligarch money, which is freaking awful. For me personally, equity, company, money ain't a ton better. Private equity has, I don't think is great. And I don't think private equity corporatization of American businesses is particularly good for America, or certainly not the American worker. So now that Chelsea is American private equity money, I laugh my ass off when I see how it fails, because there are so many stories about how private equity takes over successful companies in America and turns them to shit in no time at all.
Yeah. Well, I think
And
it's
this
interesting. I think it's interesting if you look at Chelsea and Todd Bowley, who's just spent $1 gazillion on that team,
£700 million in the
and
last 8 months.
they can't score a goal, right? That
It's
they've got.
fucking awful.
I think I don't know what the stat is for 4 goals in their last 6 games.
Yeah, they cannot score.
And the thing that's even more comical about that is if you look at yesterday's game, the 2 goals scored by our players cost Tottenham 0.
There you go. There you
Didn't
go.
cost Tottenham a penny.
There
And
you
there
go.
we are playing against £725 million or whatever it was of footballers who couldn't find the net with a compass.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, like I say, for me, it's freaking hilarious. And, an example of, private equity, they love to buy businesses that they know nothing about and then tell those people how to run it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people who've been successful at it.
Yeah.
So when they fail, as they quite often do, it tickles my ass. But
Well, we'll just segue in here real quickly. We won't spend much time on it. There's the takeover bid at Tottenham, from the Jaffe.
right,
That £3 billion plus, I think 750 million for the debts on the books.
wow, that's a big offer for Tottenham.
Big
I mean,
offer,
that's
but
a
there's
big
no
offer.
no no way is Levy or Lewis gonna take that, because it's below the valuation,
No
because
kidding.
because of the real estate that Levy wants to develop and is already working on around the
Uh huh.
stadium
Uh
in
huh.
apartments and retail centers. You know, so this is off by about, from what I'm reading, at a minimum, it's off by at least another 1.75 billion, right?
Wow.
For
Wow.
evaluation, from a valuation standpoint.
Yeah, I know the Glazers want 8 or 9 billion for Man United, which is
But
just crazy
that's the
money.
thing too, Cal. It's like, and I don't need to tell Levy this. Holy cow! I mean, he's the main man when it comes to business. But it's like, is now a good time for Tottenham to be in that mix on the market for a takeover bid? No. When you've got guys throwing money at Man United, you got Liverpool, you got Todd Bowley going on. You don't want to be in amongst those guys. Tottenham can't compete against those guys. So if you're going to sell Tottenham, which will happen one day,
Hmm.
do it when there's no other bids going on in the marketplace, so you can create
Right.
more value for yourself, right?
Right. Right.
Not when you're trying to make yourself look good. And the Qatari bid over here is 6 billion for Man United. Like, hello, can we get 3.5 billion for Tottenham? You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Just from a positional standpoint, right? A financial standpoint, it's like,
Sure.
don't even entertain the offer now. Let all this stuff die
Sure.
away. If Joe Lewis has already said we're going to sell, Daniel, okay, we know we're going to sell. It's just not going to be now. You're not in need of the money, Joe. We know that.
Right.
Let's not do it now while there's all this talk about teams being sold, because
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to look good against Liverpool, Man United's of the world. We're just not, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get sold, but it won't be now. I just don't see
Mm-hmm.
it happening right now. But it's going to happen. There's no way you can stop it from happening. You just can't.
Right. Right. So we will move on, and so that's the news segment. I really don't have anything new for Arsenal. Um, Jorginho, great check mark. Trossard, great check mark. Really came in and gave the team a boost when the team needed it. Got Jorginho on a 1.5-year contract. So his contract ends at the end of next season.
Yeah.
There is a saying in Major League Baseball, Jorginho's old, a lot of concern amongst Arsenal fans about buying a 31-year-old. But there's a saying in Major League Baseball, and that is there's no such thing as a bad 1-year contract.
That's right. That's why Alex
And
Ferguson implemented that years ago. When you reach 30, you get 1 year out of me.
that's right. And the same thing with Jorginho. If he would have came in and been shit, that would have sucked. But it would have been okay because it is worth 12 million and a 1-year contract to take the chance that he could not be shit.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been shit. So what a great deal.
Yeah.
You know, if he turns to shit, we're not stuck with him.
Sure.
So fantastic. Should we do some previews now?
Yeah, I'll jump quick on the FA Cup because we got an FA Cup game Wednesday night against Sheffield United. That's not going to be easy, right? I mean, Sheffield on a Wednesday night. Hello,
it's at Sheffield.
At Sheffield.
Okay.
Right? They are flying. They're second in the league in the Championship.
No kidding.
And they are kicking. They're kicking ass over there. They're really on form. 19 wins. Their home form is excellent. 11 wins at home right now.
Wow, that will be a tough
yeah, it's going to be tough. They knocked out Wrexham in the last round. Billy Sharp, their striker, just got fined $2.5 grand. $2.5 grand. Are you serious? It's like finding me $25, right? But why even bother? I know you're playing in the Championship, but you're still making 50 grand a week.
That's right.
Is there any point to that?
That's right.
Because he had some words afterwards about the Wrexham players and all of that. But anyway, he's playing well. These guys are not going to be a pushover. By the way, something else is that I didn't know this, that Sheffield United are Saudi owned by Prince Abdullah.
I did not know that.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know that, but if they do get promotion into the Premier League, lots of people will know that, Cal.
Ain't that a fact?
Tell me, seriously, that will get a lot of spotlight shone on it.
Yeah, it will. And, you know, with that kind of money behind them, once they get up, they probably ain't going down.
No. Yeah, and I was going to, you're right. They get up there. The guy, he'll start playing money into him if they get, not if, I think they're going to make it into the Premiership. And he'll start playing money into him.
Oh, yeah, because he's got to cover from, whatever there is of financial fair play. I mean, Todd Bowley has to be making a mockery of it. And one of the things that we missed in our absence, as I was on assignment from Elon Musk, is talking about the charges against Man City. Speaking of that.
Yeah. Tottenham's lineup, we don't know what it's going to be, obviously. I don't envision too many changes other than I think we'll see Perisic come back in for Davies. Only from the standpoint that, Davies is not a Hollywood-style player, but he's a freaking good player. Right? He's not your glamour player, but you'd want him in your team. But he's past the 30 mark. And he's not going to play 2 games a week, and he's just played Sunday. I'm very surprised if they roll him out Wednesday night.
Yeah, of course.
So I think we'll see Perisic come back in. Skip will probably play again. Maybe Højbjerg. I don't know how he's going to want to rest these players because we'll want to win the FA Cup.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I've said before, if you give me the offer of finishing 4th or finishing 7th and winning the FA Cup, I'll take finishing 7th in the FA Cup all day long.
Hey, as an Arsenal fan, I've been there.
Yeah, I'll take the FA Cup, man, all day. So I don't see us traveling to Sheffield United and putting out a weak team, I'll tell you that. Kane will be up front. Kulusevski will be playing. I think Richarlison needs to play again because he had a cracking game yesterday. He's had 2 good games. And Son deserves to be benched. It took way too long, for him to get benched. But so I think it's an important game. That's why I mentioned the next 2 weeks are pivotal for Tottenham. They've got to win that game.
Right. And we've got also on Wednesday, we've got Everton coming to the Emirates.
That's right. Yeah.
And after what they did to us, caught them at literally the worst possible time after an international break when they changed managers.
Mm-hmm.
You knew what they were going to come out like. So they came out, ran their socks off, played incredibly physical, beat us with a corner. And all credit to them because it was a good routine. They had obviously scouted us and found a weakness in our defense there. But since that game, they haven't exactly been world beaters.
Yeah.
They're back in the relegation zone. You have to think that, we're going to be ready for what they're going to bring. It's going to be up to them to see if they can come with that same intensity that they had in the first game.
Yeah.
I don't think they will be able to. It'll be interesting to see what Arteta does from a lineup point of view. Nketiah was let's say not started against Leicester. Will he come back in, or will Arteta play Trossard? Jorginho has started 2 games in a row. Partey did come on the pitch against Leicester. Is he ready to start, or is Arteta comfortable with Jorginho? Arteta is one who doesn't like to fix things that aren't necessarily broken. He can get into I don't want to say habit, but he will play the same lineup game after game after game as long as he likes what they're doing. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to rotate or not for that Wednesday night game. And then on the weekend, we play Bournemouth at home. And it'll be interesting to see if he feels.
And Everton and Bournemouth. It's exhibition football, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting because starting with this game against Leicester, we now play every 3 days the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Because, Europa League starts up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how Arteta approaches this, how he approaches rotation with the increase in fixtures ramping up.
Well, we got Wolves the weekend. We'll see what Wolves team turns up. Basically, they've been pretty sporadic.
Home or away?
Away. It's at Molineux. But their last 5 games, they've won 2, lost 2, drew 1. They beat Liverpool 3-0, and then they went the following week and lost to Bournemouth.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually playing Liverpool Wednesday night, same night you guys play.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to watch that Liverpool game against Wolves just to see how Wolves play. Just because they're all over the place, you know what I mean?
Yes, they are.
But when they do play, they're freaking hard to beat.
Yeah.
So they beat Liverpool 3-0 last time out. So I want to see how they fare against them this time because Liverpool are not exactly firing on all cylinders, are they?
Yeah, that's right. And one point I wanted to make about Arsenal is that 14 games left. Arsenal only has 6 away.
Yeah, geez.
So I think that's going to be real helpful in the title race. Both these games coming up, Everton and Bournemouth are at home. Got to have both of them. I mean, we cannot lose a home game the rest of the year. So, or even draw a home game if we want to finish up top. So,
I'll be cheering for Sean Dyche. Come on, Dyche.
So 3 points are an absolute must in both games.
Arteta will walk up to him in his broken Spanish, English, and then Dyche will be like, neither of them will be able to understand each other.
That's right. Hey, thanks to everyone for listening. Really, really appreciate it and glad to be back. Please follow. Yeah, that's right. Please follow Rick on Twitter at ATF Podcast 1 or follow me at ATF Podcast 2.
Yeah, and follow me on Instagram. I post some funny stuff. Come on, follow me at ArsenalTottenhamFanPodcast.com.
And also, speaking of that, we are now posting our pods on YouTube as video pods. So you can go there to get a look at Rick and I. Rick is
This isn't actually
broadcasting.
me, though. This is a deep fake AI version of me.
Well, Rick is recording from the Arsenal room, and I am recording from the Lily White room.
Yeah.
So we are in each other's studio for this particular episode. Hey, thanks to everyone for listening. Hope y'all have a great week, and let's go Gunners.
Cheers, everyone. Come on, you Spurs.